Hey folks, John Mark here. In this video, we're going to dive into the various language and international date settings in Zoho and ZPortals. So I'm going to get started on the Zoho side, and then we're going to flip over to WordPress and ZPortals and show you the different ways that you can customize both systems to match your language needs. So without further ado, let me share my screen, and we're going to get started on the main accounts screen for Zoho. Now, if you haven't been here, it's accounts.zoho.com. This takes you to a place where you can update your email address, define your two-factor authentication settings, etc. And then, of course, one of those settings is adjusting your language preference. So if you come to the screen, click on personal information, you'll then click on edit, and you'll be able to update your time zone and your country, region, and language preferences. When you update your language preferences here, it actually permeates through all of the Zoho apps. So you don't need to adjust the language on each Zoho app. You can simply do it once over here under this accounts.zoho screen. Now, secondary to that is once we go into the CRM and we have the user invitation that gets sent out to a new user that gets invited to the portal. This is simply created using one of the standard templates. So the next language setting that you should be familiar with in regards to ZPortals for inviting users is over here under settings. You'll go under our customization and templates. And over here, you'll see a template installed with the ZPortals extension to the CRM called New User Registration. And then, of course, this you can type your user invitation in whichever language you would like. Now, I do want to point out that in some use cases, you may have dual language needs. For instance, if you're in Canada, it's quite common to need to cater to folks in both English and French. So it's possible with ZPortals and CRM to actually have dual language support. And you can actually create two different templates, one in English and one in French in this example. And you can configure the correct template to go out to a user by defining that language preference on the contact record. You can simply create a pick list on the contact to define their language preference. And then over here under settings, workflow rules, what you'll notice is the workflow rule that triggers the invite to be sent is this one over here. And it gets triggered whenever the portal invitation sent field is updated. So you can actually use this logic and incorporate an additional condition to then choose which email template to send out. So if you don't want to just have one standard workflow, go ahead and deactivate this one. You can create a new workflow rule that will execute based on the portal invitation date field being updated to any value. So same trigger as always, but then you can incorporate a condition that if their language preference is English, then send out the portal registration email in the English language compared to French. And that way you can have two different templates go out, and you can simply go ahead and clone or copy the content from this new user registration here. The most important thing is to get the Join Now button configured correctly. And we have another great support article where you can learn how to configure that. So let's go ahead now and jump over to WordPress and the ZPortal settings to show you how you can define your language settings on the WordPress side. So I'm going to get started over here, and we're going to jump into the back end of WordPress. Okay, so now you can see that I am in WordPress, and the first thing that we're going to do is define our language settings for the overall WordPress site. Now, to do that, you're going to go over here to the settings menu, and once you click on settings, you'll be able to scroll down and you can define your date format to support international date formats. time, and then of course you can also define your site language. Now, that's to define the overall language in the WordPress menus and whatnot. Once we dive into ZPortals, you can then go in and to the customization tab. And there are a number of different ways that we can start to refine our language preferences within ZPortal settings. And then I'm going to jump into a separate plugin that can give you more nuanced control as well. So within the ZPortals settings, if you go to customization, once you've activated your various modules, they'll show up over here on the left. And if I jump into one of these, we can see here that by default, it's going to bring up the module names from the CRM. Now, in a lot of cases, you don't actually want the default name from Zoho to display as the front-end username. So you can actually rename the module over here. This is the name that will actually show up in the portal versus what is displayed in Zoho. Now, you can actually rename not only the main module, but any field as well. So if you go into the layout settings for a particular module here, you're going to be able to rename any field or section as well. So I'm going to jump into the record view here, and we can see that we have, in this case, a few different sections of information. So you can rename the sections. If you have specific fields, you can click on the settings of each field and you can choose to rename it. So this can help you with more individualized edits at the field level if you need to. Now, in many cases, you may end up, again, having a more advanced use case where you need to offer multi-language support to different users within ZPortals. That is supported as well. It's a little bit more involved to do that configuration. But essentially what you can do is under user management, we can define multiple profiles. Now, a profile in ZPortals is akin to a profile in the CRM. It basically defines the permissions and which tabs a user has access to. And we can add two different profiles, one for English and one for Spanish as an example. And then we can actually go over here to the customization tab, and we can create a duplicate page of the same module. So let's just say that we wanted to have an English version of the deals module and a Spanish version as well. We can click to add a new page, and then we can choose to integrate the deals module again, and we can call this, deals Spanish version. Forgive me, I don't know what deals are in Spanish, but we can then choose to define which profile gets to see this page. So in this way, if we have two different profiles, we can have all of the English versions show up under the English profile and the Spanish versions show up under the Spanish one. And then you can go into each field to rename the fields appropriately for your language preference. So the key thing here is on the CRM side, if we go back to a contact record, we can define a language preference for a particular contact, and we can have that language preference define their profile as well. So on a contact record, you can see here we have the assigned profile. You could have a workflow rule that populates this to either English or Spanish. And that way, when this particular user gets invited to ZPortals, they'll get applied to the appropriate profile that matches this assigned profile. And then you can use this field, as I mentioned earlier, to determine which invite the user gets. So in that way, we can support dual languages in the CRM and in ZPortals as well. So that covers some of the standard features in ZPortals for renaming fields and offering dual language support by using different profiles. Not only can you do that with duplicate pages, but you can do it with dashboard content as well. So you can have a unique dashboard for each language as well. And you would simply define which profile gets each dashboard, similar to how we did the modules earlier. And that can be found under the profile settings for ZPortals. Now, I'm going to pause here, and we're going to do a separate video on more advanced language support through some additional plugins like gTranslate. So please check out part 2 of this video, where we're going to show how those plugins can give you far more granular control over everything in the portal. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers.